Hey everybody, it's Wild. Dark Souls is a really special game. It means a lot to so many gamers. And since its release, it's constantly been a part of video game discussions. Whether it be about level design or difficulty, it's present. Last year, in 2024, I played Dark Souls for the first time. And now I'd like to share my thoughts on what makes it so special, and why it's worth playing regardless the year. One of the biggest decisions that video game developers have to ask themselves is, what kind of experience do we want our players to have with our game? How do we want the players to view it, or to feel about it? From Software, also known as FromSoft, the developers of Dark Souls and the progenitors of the Souls series, have a level of faith in their players that we don't often see, whether they be classic or modern titles. Here's an example of how a developer's faith in his players can really shape the experience. In The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, the game received numerous complaints from players about the companion character Fi. A character that would always tell the player where they should go and what they should be doing. She was a very hand-holding NPC. I had personally never seen an NPC that was that handholdy in any game before. Fi was disliked by nearly everyone who played the game. And the message the player sent to the developers at Nintendo must have been loud and clear. Because the next title in the Zelda series would be The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time, and I could talk about it for hours, but for this example, I'll keep things brief. In Breath of the Wild, there's nearly no hand-holding at all. You get out on the Great Plateau, and you decide where to go. At first, you're constrained to the Great Plateau itself, but once you get your glider, you're free. You're given a suggestion to go to Kakariko Village, but you're free. You can go wherever you want. The Sheikah Towers in Breath of the Wild act as beacons to the player, beckoning them to climb them. Most of them have a puzzle-like design, making it a challenge to climb up to the top. But once you do, you reveal a portion of the map, as well as unlock a teleportation point on the tower. And now the player can look around and decide where they want to go based upon their map and what they can see. This was contrasted heavily with another gaming studio called Ubisoft, and their tower design found in many of their games. This tower design was prevalent in so many of their games that they were dubbed Ubisoft Towers. When you climb up a Ubisoft tower in a game, your map is littered with a litany of markers telling the player what they'll find there and what kind of activities they'll partake in. This tower design was seen as recently as this year's 2025 Ubisoft release, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Breath of the Wild came out in 2017, 8 years ago. Ubisoft's tower design received criticism and was tired back then, and they're still doing it 8 years later. These two differing tower designs alone are an example of the developers deciding what kind of experience they want the player to have, and the faith that they have in them. Nintendo gives the player a map and expects them to look around with their eyeballs and make a decision of where they're going, while Ubisoft puts a whole bunch of markers on the map, removing player volition and the mystery of the world. Games like Breath of the Wild and Assassin's Creed Shadows are both open-world games, but the experience the developers deliver to the player and the level of faith they have in them is vastly different. Now let's bring FromSoft forward and look at one of their modern titles, the 2023 Game of the Year winner, Elden Ring. After the release of Elden Ring, one of the developers that worked at Ubisoft went on social media and blatantly called the UI design bad. It was rich coming from Ubisoft. Sure, the UI design in Elden Ring could probably use a few tweaks and be improved, but overall, the UI is non-intrusive and works exceptionally well. After that Ubisoft developer's comment, a meme that many remember to this day spawned, the Elden Ring if it was made by Ubisoft meme. And this had a mock-up of what the UI may have looked like if Ubisoft designed it rather than FromSoft. This meme landed for many people and still resides within the players' minds. Just as recently as November of 2024, a video of this meme was made and put up onto YouTube. The reason I bring up these examples of open world, tower, and UI designs is because it brings up something that we're all internally aware of, we just don't always talk about. Probably because it doesn't have to deal with individual mechanics, or level design, or progression systems. It's much broader. What makes a game good is the game's developers. Now, I'm aware that this is a cop-out statement, but it's also an important one we shouldn't forget. Game studios are loved because we love the developers working in that studio and the games that they make. They're responsible for the mechanics and the levels and the systems that we love. The greatest of them are skilled, dedicated, and visionary. So what happens when these developers leave? Well, we've unfortunately seen this happen. Most recently with Rocksteady Studios. Rocksteady developed the critically acclaimed and fan-loved Batman Arkham series games. Incredible single-player games that made you feel like you were Batman. And those games withstood the test of time. They'll be loved forever. But last year, Rocksteady released a live service multiplayer looter shooter, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Many fans were skeptical of the project. It didn't seem like Rocksteady were leveraging their talents to make a game the fans were excited to play. When it released, it didn't have the large audience of players that played the Arkham games. Soon after its initial release, it was clear that players just weren't interested. It released in February of 2024, and support for the online functionality was ended in January of 2025. It was revealed later to have lost $200 million. In short, it failed. But if you were following closely enough, you would know that most of the original developers of Rocksteady left. They formed their own studio, 100 Star. If you liked the Arkham games, this is the studio worthy of your attention. So then, what's left of the original Rocksteady? When every part of an original thing is gone, what even is it? Well, in the case of Rocksteady, it's the ship of Theseus. And I think it's clear what you could expect from them for a while. So yeah, while it's a cop-out statement saying that a game is good because of the developers that made it, it's also true. Any game is good because of its developers. So what makes Dark Souls so special? It's From Software. It's their vision, their level design talent, their art direction talent. It's everything. It's them. They're the reason that it's so good. Now, if I must pick out one specific thing that makes Dark Souls so great, one specific game design element the developers at FromSoft really nailed, I would say it's the free nature of the game, derived from their faith that they have in their players. There have always been games that don't hold the player's hand, but there are very few that have the level of faith in their players that FromSoft does. Dark Souls doesn't have a massive open world map. It could easily be on rails. And yet, there's no clear direction given on where to go or what to do. It's all up to the player. If you watched my Advancing the Video Game Difficulty discussion plus Elden Ring difficulty analysis parts 1 and 2, you heard me talk a lot about player engagement. Especially in part 2 where I covered NOWSRDS. Player engagement is really important to me because it often correlates to player fun, and also often creates more memorable experiences. Dark Souls is a difficult game. It's not the most brutal game I've ever played, but it's difficult. The game doesn't tell you where to go, it doesn't tell you what its story is, and it's difficult. You as the player have to be engaged with the game. You don't have a choice. When no one is telling you where to go, when no one is explaining the story and lore in a direct manner, and there's no grand tutorials telling you exactly how to beat specific enemies, you have to figure it out. You must engage with the game. Because of this, everything you do in Dark Souls is your accomplishment. This is why the sense of accomplishment you feel when you finally overcome a challenge is so powerful. Because you're given so little guidance that your way that you overcame it is your own. You can take ownership of that. It's not the developer's handcrafted way that they expect you to do it. They simply give the player a lot of tools and expect them to reason out a solution of their own making. All the Souls games that I've played thus far have the same hands-off approach, and I believe it's one of the reasons that these games are so loved. This isn't just unique to Souls games, many games have this hands-off approach, and on a personal level, most of my favorites. Breath of the Wild, Hollow Knight, and most recently Baldur's Gate 3. If you've played any of these games, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll admit I am biased towards this game design philosophy. Having experiences that are player volition driven has led to some of the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had. It's probably why Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time. It's an action-adventure game, but it's player volition driven. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say that Dark Souls is player volition driven in the same way an open world game like Breath of the Wild is, or an extremely robust RPG like Baldur's Gate 3 is, but it's not on rails either. There are many decisions that you, the player, have to make. And there is so much thought that needs to go into deciphering the lore to fully comprehend the story. All of this is why Dark Souls is such a special game. Dark Souls released in 2011. If anyone played this game during that time, I could easily see it being an influence on the types of games that they would seek out to play in the future. And I don't just mean Souls-like games, but games where the developers trust the player, and where player choice and player engagement truly matter. Because From Software made Dark Souls in this manner, Dark Souls will always remain an exceptional experience. It's what makes it so special, and why it's worth playing, regardless the year. If you enjoyed this video or found it entertaining, leave a like and comment below. If you'd like to see more content like this in the future, subscribe for more. For just $1 a month, you can support me directly through Patreon. Link is in the description below. I'm wild, and I'll catch you in the next one.